Hi, I'm Eric Siegel, and welcome to episode 70 of Eric's Trains. Alright, so it is late November 2018, and I just had the annual open house for my layout about a week ago. We had 317 visitors come through this year. I got to meet a lot of great people. We ran a lot of great trains. It was a lot of fun. It was a great day. Now, I did do several YouTube live broadcasts during the open house, so if you want to watch those, they're available on my channel if you haven't watched them already. Now, I was originally going to do episode 70 just before the open house, but I didn't have time because I was wrapping up too many projects on and off the layout. But now that things have calmed down, I can show you a lot of the progress that was made in the days and weeks leading up to the open house. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so the first couple things I want to show you are actually on the underside of the layout. Now, what you're looking at here is one of two stools that I have that were redone last year in 2017 before the 2017 open house. These used to be really nasty looking stools, but last year my girlfriend repainted them and then recovered them in this train fabric, and they look really nice. And at the time, she said, you know, I'm going to get more of this train fabric and I want to redo the skirts on the layout because most of the skirting on the layout looked really, really nasty. It was this temporary blue skirting that I had put up years ago that was never meant to be permanent. And over the years, it had gotten pretty ratty. It was never hemmed or sewn nicely or anything. And so she set out to replace those, and that's what she did before this year's open house. So over here you can see the new skirting that she put up. She sewed these on a sewing machine, and as you can see, they look fantastic. They use Velcro. They have Velcro stripping on top, so they go all the way across nice and snug so they won't sag. They're made out of a fire-resistant craft fabric, and then she sewed that train fabric on the bottom. And it looks fantastic. So she was able to finish, before the open house, she was able to finish this part of the main room, the entire hallway room, the entire Colorado room, and there's that second stool I was talking about. And then she was able to finish most of the Carolina room. She finished this side over here, and then this table over here. And she also replaced this curtain here that goes to the room that has the furnace and the water heater in it. The only sections that she didn't have time to replace were this section right here and the skirts on the main table in the main room. You can see those don't match. Now, the reason she didn't get to these yet is because they were the lowest priority. As I said, years ago, I put up this temporary blue skirting, and it was not very nice. It got paint spilled on it. It wasn't sewn or hemmed or anything. It looked really nasty. And so that was the priority that she wanted to replace. This skirting I put up in more recent years, and this is made from a denim fabric, and it is hemmed. It has buttons on it that secure to the top. So this is in nicer shape, and so these were a lower priority. Now, eventually she's going to replace these two, but before this year's open house, the priority was to replace the ratty blue looking ones, and then she'll get to these when she can. Hopefully before next year's open house. I'm sure she'll have them replaced by then. But yeah, these new skirts look awesome. I'm so happy that she did that. And you know, the skirts were never a big priority for me because, you know, I worry about the layout and the trains and so forth. But she came down here and she said, you know, these ratty old skirts have to go. They look horrible. And she was right. And now it looks amazing. And it's stuff like this, little things like this, that make a huge difference in how people perceive your layout. Because by replacing those ratty skirts, it transforms the layout from some sort of homemade layout to something that looks a bit more professional. So, well done. These look great. The other thing that I want to show you on the underside of the layout is this new display case, which I just built and installed a few days before the open house because I had to. I had some engines that were on the layout that I needed to get off the layout for the open house, and I didn't have anywhere to put them, so I had to build a new display case, and so here it is. As you can see, I removed some of the skirting and installed this display case underneath this section of the layout. Now eventually there will be a twin case on this side. On the other side of this 2x4, this is a structural support for the table, so that has to be there. But on the other side, there's going to be an identical case to that one. I didn't have time to get that one done before the open house, but I will get it done at some point in the near future. But I was able to get that one done, and as you can see, it looks pretty good. Up on the layout itself, there were two areas that saw significant progress leading up to the open house, and this is one of them. This is, of course, the diesel shop area. And as many of you know, and as I've mentioned before, this area sort of sat in limbo for many years, incomplete. And the reason for that was because I could not get the diesel shop finished to my satisfaction. I started building it, and then I just didn't have the skills or time to get it like I wanted. And so finally, earlier this year, I sent it off to Stu Gralnick from Model Building Services, and he was able to finish it for me and send it back. And as you can see, it looks great. So I've installed the diesel shop. It's wired up, so it is illuminated on the outside and the inside. If you take a look on the inside, you can see there are a couple of diesels in there, and you can see the start of the platforms. It looks really nice in there. The roof can be removed. I'll take that off in just a minute. And because the diesel shop is now complete, I've been able to start doing some scenery around the diesel shop. So I was able to finish ballasting the track, did some scenery and ground cover around the shop. I was able to work on the side track over here. I added a couple lights. There's a concrete platform. I was able to ballast the track. So it's looking pretty good. Now, of course, it's not complete. This area, this track right here, is eventually going to be a light maintenance and fuel area where the engines can fuel up, and so I'm going to have to put some equipment on this platform, but it's looking a lot better than it has in the past. And then, of course, this area over here is still incomplete. You can see I added some road bed for the road and the parking lot, but I haven't paved it yet, so it's still looking a little incomplete. Now, one thing I did prior to the open house was that over here where the road is complete, at the very end of the completed section of road, you can see that I added some roadwork signs, a couple pieces of equipment, and a couple workers. And I did that so that hopefully when people come and see the layout, they'll see this, and that'll help them understand that the area beyond the signs is still under construction. That's really important to me because over the years I've noticed that when people visit the layout, most people, unless you tell them otherwise, will assume that the layout is complete and that everything looks exactly how you want it to look. And so it's important to me that I communicate to them that, hey, most of the stuff you're seeing on this layout is not complete, and especially areas like that, they are really incomplete. And so I try to tell that to them when they visit the layout, and then I try to further communicate that with stuff like this. I've turned the overhead lights down a bit so that you can see what the diesel shop area looks like in an evening setting. And as you can see, it looks really cool. You can see the lights that I added on the side track over there on the left. You can see lights coming through the skylights on the roof of the diesel shop. And the front of the shop looks really cool. And check out that interior. It looks awesome. Here's a look at the inside of the diesel shop with the roof removed. And you can see a couple of the platforms as well as some of the lighting wiring. Now, originally I was going to do a super detailed interior, but ultimately I decided to not do that because the truth is that when you have the roof on, you really can't see much of the interior at all. And so the most I'll probably do is at some point I'll add some crew figures on the platforms, and I'll also add a few pieces of equipment. The last thing I want to show you today is the part of the layout that has seen the most progress leading up to the open house. And that, of course, is this table here in the Carolina room. Now, for those of you who have been watching me for a while, you know that this table has been sitting in limbo for years, unfinished, and to be honest, quite an eyesore. And once again, I have to credit my girlfriend with the progress made here, because To be honest, I wasn't planning on doing much work on this table leading up to the open house because I didn't think I had enough time. But she came down here and she said, that table looks terrible. You need to do something about it. And so I went about trying to get as much work as I could done on it leading up to the open house. And as you can see, I made pretty good progress. Most of the scenery you're seeing here is brand new. In fact, the glue on some of this scenery was still drying the morning of the open house. So what you're seeing here, most of it is brand spanking new. So for starters, I added these rails around the table to give it a more finished look. I did quite a lot of road work, as you can see. Some of it is complete, some of it is not. I still need to work on the transitions from the road to the parking lots. I still need to stripe the roads. I need to work on the grade crossing over there. And then of course, way back there, that's still very much under construction. But it's looking pretty good. I added some ground cover, as you can see. Some road signs, some hedges and some flowers, some trees, a street light. I was able to wire up the buildings, so the grocery store, the Dirty Hoe Garden Center, and Ria's Bluebird all have interior lighting now. I was able to do some track ballasting on the track. And I was also able to finish some scenery around the salt factory. So all in all, a lot of progress made. Let's take a moment and check out a few of the details that I've added to this scene so far. Behind the restaurant, there's a trash can, and sitting on top of the trash can is my cat Chessie. There he is. And Chessie is also sitting on the dumpster behind the grocery store. There he is. And then in front of the Dirty Hoe Garden Center, there is a dog. That is my girlfriend's dog. There she is. Her name's Tootsie. My girlfriend bought some O-scale flower pots, and so she put one there. There's one in front of the garden center, and then there's a couple in front of the grocery store. We added some road signs. There's a speed limit sign there, and then there's a railroad crossing sign at the grade crossing, and there's also a Lionel Do Not Trespass sign in front of the salt factory. And then we added some flowers that came from a little kit. So there's a bunch in front of the grocery store, and there's a cluster of 6 between the restaurant and the garden center. Eventually I'm going to put a little chain around this. I'll put some wooden poles and a chain around this, so it should look pretty nice when it's done. And then of course you can see I put a little chair, and there's a guy sitting in front of the restaurant. Eventually, I want to put some benches out front because at the real Ria's Bluebird, when you're waiting in line, they have benches out front that you can sit on. Not too long ago, I got a package of trackside equipment pieces from Lionel, and so one of those pieces is right there. I believe that is a rail greaser, although I could be mistaken. I'm not entirely sure. And then over here, there's a box. Now, these pieces are not in place permanently yet. They're just kind of sitting there because I'm not entirely certain where I want them. But once I am certain, I will glue them in place and put some scenery around the bases. Now, over on the far side, just like in the main room where the road is still under construction, I added some roadwork signs and a road crew. And that is to let visitors know that, hey, that area is still under construction. In fact, anywhere you see that gray vinyl or the exposed table is still under construction. Eventually that road will disappear into a tunnel in that mountain, but I have yet to build that. And speaking of work that has yet to be done, is this table complete? Not by a long shot. There is still lots of work that needs to be done. I need to add more trees, more flowers, more shrubbery, cars, people, more street signs, more street lights. I need to add something over here. It's too small for a big structure, but I'm probably going to add a park, maybe a playground and a water fountain or something like that. I need to finish the roads, of course. I need to add water to the lake. I've been putting that off forever. I need to get that done. So there is lots of work that still needs to be done on this table, but at least at this point it is presentable, and that's a big deal. Here's an evening shot of this table, and I think it looks pretty good. The most prominent feature, of course, is the salt factory, But the other buildings and the street light and the radio tower look cool as well. I think having good night shots on a layout is a really cool thing. And it's something that I aspire to do because there's something magical about turning the lights down and just enjoying the evening view of a layout. And as this layout gets more towards completion, it's something I'm able to do more and more. And this table is going to look really cool when it's completely finished. The last thing I want to do today is talk about a couple of upcoming product reviews. Now, what you're looking at right here is a one-of-a-kind engineering prototype of the upcoming Lionel Brass Hybrid K2. That's right, this is a one-of-a-kind model right now. There's only one of them. This is a testing prototype, and Lionel was kind enough to let me borrow it to do a sneak peek video for the K2. So I feel very privileged to be able to once again have a one-of-a-kind prototype on my layout for a sneak peek. So keep an eye out for that sneak peek video in the very near future. I got to do it quickly because I have to return this to Lionel because it is the only one right now. Finally, of course, here is the new Lionel Vision Line Niagara. This is an amazing model with loads of new cutting-edge features. It is an awesome engine. I will be doing a full review of this right after I do the sneak peek of the Brass Hybrid K2. Alright, that about wraps it up for this episode. As you saw, I was able to make some good progress leading up to the open house, and that's important to me because each year at the open house I have a lot of repeat visitors, and so when they come back year after year, I want them to see some progress on the layout, and I also want them to see something different on the rails as well. And so each year I write down what I ran at that open house, and so that way the next year I can run something different. And that way when I get those repeat visitors, not only do they see progress on the layout, but they also see something different on the rails than they've seen before, or at least seen in recent years. But anyway, keep an eye out for the preview of that Lionel Brass Hybrid K2. That should be out in the very near future. And then also I'll be doing a review for the Lionel Vision Line Niagara. So keep an eye out for that as well. But for now, that's it. I'm Eric Siegel, and I'll see you next time.